for the next 5 years. The unprecedented situation that has been caused by COVID-19 has actually disrupted all walks of.
Sir, unmute yourself.
That's okay.
Sir, he is very much audible, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So uh, this has been an unprecedented disruption in all walks of life. Whether you talk of industry, you talk of education, you talk of social services, everything, government services, social services. This is unprecedented, a black swan kind of event, which happens maybe once in centuries, but they are now talking that pandemics are likely to occur more often. So we have to actually prepare for such events in future. As I mentioned, that this disruption, which has been caused in various sectors, almost all sectors of our living, will have to make a lot of adjustments, and two themes are making those adjustments are innovation and virtual working. You add artificial intelligence, you add augmented reality, you add tools like hologram, which enable a person to be transported virtually to a actual setting or a remote setting. So these are all the tools, but fact of the matter is that in education, the disruption has been far more. Just imagine a billion students across the world, roughly 90% of all students across the world are affected by the unprecedented virus that has happened. And therefore, it calls for long-term shifts. As I mentioned, to my mind, it will take 5 years to innovate and to work out new ways of working, teaching, even in industry or all walks of life. So coming to the teaching, I see a lot of changes that will happen. You see, technology has been around for the last 20 years in teaching, but we have been slow in accepting the technology. In India, for example, Dr. Bakshi would be aware, not my guess is 90% of the universities and colleges do not have even a learning management system, although it is open source and free like Moodle, but we just don't have it. We are so averse of using technology in India particularly. I don't know globally what is the situation, but must be developed countries better, but all emerging economies would have the same kind of situation. So in they say in Japanese language, crisis and opportunity are the same characters in the language. So I see more. I mean, crisis is there. It's a, and they say they never let a good crisis go waste. But I wish to focus on the opportunity. So we have today an unprecedented opportunity, as I mentioned, to innovate and to also find new ways of working in remote mode, virtual mode. So there are a lot of challenges, and I am sure the coming 7 days the participants will have enough of exposure to all the challenges, which will actually enable them to be much better teacher. I'm sure they, when they come out of this training program, they will have mastered the art of both innovation and virtual working. So in virtual working, look at the challenge. I find first challenge is psychological. Suddenly a person is thrown before the whole family, and everybody is watching your accent, your pronunciation, even your dress, and your the environment that you are operating from. And in India we have a lot of movement around the houses. So these are psychological pressure which people, and I'm sure this would receive some attention of the resource person. Second is preparing for a virtual or remote teaching mode. So it requires tremendous changes in your presentation, development of study material. I would suggest the Dr. Ashwini Palla. See, there is a very nice conversation with a Harvard professor who steered Harvard to teach through case method. That would be a very good resource to understand the issues that are involved in virtual teaching or virtual teaching learning processes. In Harvard, there are 120 business school I am talking about, 125 faculty members who never taught in ever in their life in a remote mode. And when this event came, and all of you are aware that most of the US and advanced countries universities have decided to scrap the whole session. That means they have moved the whole session to virtual mode. So they trained 125 professors who had never taught through a virtual mode, particularly making case studies or teaching case studies in the virtual mode. So these kind of efforts are actually required to support the faculty. And as Vikas said, our aim at PCMA is to empower, enable, and provide the avenues for faculty to enhance their teaching skills, enhance their research skills, enhance their connect with the community. That is what I feel, and I'm sure in the coming days, all faculty members participating in this program would see the merit in making adjustments. The next theme is the innovation. So for a very long time in the universities and colleges, our method of innovation has been chalk and talk. We have rarely used games. We have rarely used computer simulations. We have rarely used role plays in many Indian universities, particularly and business schools. We have not used much of the case studies also. So I'm sure the resource persons will navigate the participants to use more innovative methods of teaching online particularly, and this will enable all the faculty members to to enhance their skills and to be effective teachers in a mode that is going to become almost a permanent feature. For a very long time, we have been talking of blended mode of education, but it has been only a lip service that we do blended mode of education. It is now the time that, and through this program particularly, I am very happy that PCMA has designed this program to enable teachers to move on to effective innovation and blended learning mode. We have been all the time hearing that the syllabi is a major challenge. Now, this is an opportunity to augment or enrich the learning experience of the students by using multiple modes of delivery. You have the message, which we all have, but how to adapt the message to the virtual world, number one. Number two, using multiple resources. And third, the opportunity to teach in large volumes. PCMA programs where hundreds of people are participating is one example of how do we actually overcome scarcity of good teachers. If we can blend the teachers, if we can bring more talented teachers and then blend them through the faculty members spread across the world to take the effective teaching to this question, that will enable another innovation in teaching, that you have the global resources in this program. Also, you have lined up all the resources from all over the world, which was not possible a few years ago, and we are not actually mentally prepared for this thing. So I will conclude here. I am very happy that a large number of teachers have volunteered to join this program, have found time or have committed their time to enhance their virtual reality skills, virtual working skills. And I'm sure the program will enable you to be more effective teacher and be comfortable in using the virtual working mode. Thank you very much, and I look forward to attending many of the sessions that I will be able to. Once again, wish to thank Dr. Bakshi, the resource persons, and all the participants who have joined the program. And I wish you all the best during the next 7 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Like your words have been always been a constant set of inspiration for us. Like under your dynamic leadership, the PCMA is in working in the right direction, and we have been able to move with our mission. Like we have been able to create an environment like where now people feel that yes, PCMA is working for creating a conducive environment for a meaningful learning. Not taking much of time now, I'll request our president, Dr. Ashwini Bhallaji, to kindly make his welcome address and introduce our keynote speaker of the day, Dr. A.K. Bakshi ji to the
Thank you, Dr.
Ashwini
Vikas.
Bhallaji, please.
We are already 10 minutes late from our schedule. So it's my privilege to introduce very renowned personality, and we are very lucky in Punjab Commerce and Management Association, and we are highly thankful to Dr. Pravinder for introducing us Dr. A.K. Bakshi, and we are very, very lucky in this field that we have roped in Dr. A.K. Bakshi for keynote address of this 7 days international program for faculty development. Professor A.K. Bakshi is a founder vice chancellor of PDM University, Bahadurgarh, Haryana. He has been executive director of Tertiary Education Commission, Mauritius. He was selected for prestigious position through an international selection. And before that, he has been vice chancellor of UP Rajshri Tandon Open University, Allahabad for more than 2 years. Professor Bakshi held a prestigious Sir Shankar Lal Chair of Chemistry in the University of Delhi for more than 2 decades. And he was also head of the Department of Chemistry, University of Delhi during May 10 to August 11. He has also been visiting professor of GGSIP University, Delhi. Professor Bakshi is also presently chairman of National Resource Center of Chemistry of MHRD, Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center of MHRD, and Center for E-Learning. He is a double gold medal and PhD of Delhi University. Dr. Bakshi did his postdoctoral training at the University of Erlangen, Nuremberg, Germany, with Professor J. Ladek, and at the Kyoto University and the Institute of Fundamental Chemistry, Kyoto, Japan. So he has also been visiting scientist at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Professor Bakshi is the author of 170 research and education articles. He has produced 11 books as an author and co-author 51 e-books, and the list is very long. Dr. Bakshi has been awarded with so many prestigious awards: World Education Award 2017, Haryana Ratna Award, Bharat Jyoti Award, and apart from that, he has been felicitated 2 times for distinctive and outstanding contribution to education, including e-transformation of the University of Delhi by former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So we are very lucky in this field. The biodata is the profile is very enriched and it runs into so many pages. So giving in brief profile, I welcome once again Dr. A.K. Bakshi on the platform of Punjab Commerce and Management Association, and I request him to deliver his keynote address. Dr. A.K. Bakshi.
Thank you, Dr. Bhalla, for your very kind words of introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. Esteemed Dr. Prem Kumar ji, the patron of PCMA, Professor Parvinder Singh, Controller of Examination, Punjab University, Dr. Ashwini Bhalla, Convener, Dr. Singla, Director, Dr. Vikas Deep, Organizing Secretary, and Dr. Sachdeva, Technical Coordinator, and last but not the least, all the participants from across the country. I extend a very warm greetings to all of you and sincerely wish and hope that you all are very fine and in the best of health and spirits. As you know, we are passing through very, very difficult times, the times unheard of in our living memory. we have to take adequate precautions for our safety. And I'm sure you all are doing the needful. It was indeed a great pleasure to listen to Dr. Prem Kumarji and his kind words of wisdom on this occasion, which were really very enriching and valuable. And, I'm very happy to know that the response to this course has been tremendous. So many people have enrolled in this course. And when you people enroll and attend this, you are giving that part of your life to us, which you will never get back. That's the importance. So I think you should be duly compensated, duly enriched, duly empowered on the theme of this webinar, which is basically an international 7-day workshop, faculty development program. As a matter of fact, when I was approached for this talk, there were many options open to me. Since the theme of this faculty development program is innovative methods for virtual classroom teaching, a road to MOOCs, all of this comes under digital transformation of higher education, or technology enabled higher education. So I thought I have been working in this field for the last so many years. Therefore, let me give you an overview of the technology enabled higher education in India, challenges and opportunities. So that is going to be the title of my talk. And let me now share my screen. Dr. Bhalla, please confirm is my...
Yes, it's visible, sir. It's visible.
Yes.
And I am audible also, clearly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the title of my talk is Technology Enabled Higher Education in India, Challenges and Opportunities. You will all agree that technology has always been an enabler. It always helps us to do so many things. It makes our lives easier and convenient. If we look at our life these days even, I am able to approach and talk to you only through technology. While sitting at home during lockdown, we are able to do almost everything online. So again, this is the gift of technology. So technology pervades all around us, that you will agree. So you can say that technology is an enabler which can help achieve the intention of the person who is using it. But as Dr. Prem Kumarji also mentioned, the impact of technology on education has not been that significant. As a matter of fact, I am really surprised that perhaps education is the only sector which still sometimes debates the usefulness of technology. And there are many unfounded apprehensions or fears amongst the faculty members. So we will talk all these things in this talk. And this talk is in two parts. In first part, I will talk about how technology has impacted the various areas of higher education. And in the second part, I will talk about what is going to be the future. So let me start with the first part, that integration of ICT with higher education. Before we talk about this, the first question which will come to your mind is, what is ICT? ICT or information and communication technology is an umbrella term that encompasses all communication technologies that provide access to information. Whether it is internet, wireless network, satellite communication, cell phone, digital TV, all will come under ICT. So we should be first of all clear about this. Now, ICT has impacted all areas of higher education. Let us see how. The most important component in education is teaching and learning. And here ICT has impacted in the form of e-learning and MOOCs. Now, the first question which will come is, what is e-learning? You know, e-learning means electronic learning. Emphasis is still on learning. E is just a mechanism. So you can say that e-learning is a learning that uses ICT. But if you have to learn something, you need some content from where to learn. So that content is called e-content. Next question comes, how do we get e-content? As you can see here, e-content comes from static content. If you have any semester paper, any paper, maybe in commerce, you take that syllabus, and for that syllabus, you first write static content. Static content is written by subject matter experts, teachers, senior professors, they write. And this include text, value addition, all those quizzes, etc., all will come under static content. Once static content is ready, then technical team does its multimedia enrichment. That means wherever required, you add audios or videos or animations in the static content so as to make learning more interesting. Because you know, e-learning is going to be self-learning. There is no teacher. So it should be so interesting that it keeps the learner engaged. So now you can say that e-content is nothing else but multimedia enriched static content. We also talk about MOOCs. You know, MOOCs is also a form of e-learning, but in a very, very structured manner. This term is not very old. It was coined only in the year 2008. And it is an acronym for Massive Open Online Course, as you can see it here. You know, we call it massive because in any MOOC, there can be unlimited enrollment. Lakhs and lakhs of students can enroll. We call it open because no qualifications are required for enrollment except for obtaining grades. Then it is offered through online. And then course. Normally, one course is one MOOC. For example, suppose in MCOM, in 2 years spread over 4 semesters, you have 16 theory papers, then there will be corresponding 16 MOOCs. So that is how it works. You know, this is how a MOOC is developed. Very simple, and there will never be any confusion once you look at this slide. As you can see, you know, if you take any semester paper, we divide it into 35 to 40 parts, syllabus. And then for each part, you first develop static content, then do its multimedia enrichment, you get e-content, and this e-content will be for one module. Like that, there will be 35 to 40 modules for one 4-credit semester paper. So these 35 to 40 modules are arranged week-wise, and then they are delivered in a MOOC. So this is how a MOOC develops. Please remember, we have developed almost 50 MOOCs in the country, the maximum by any institution in the country. And these have been developed by our team in chemistry, economics, commerce, business economics, forensic science, and psychology. 6 subjects. And this is the structure how the MOOC is ultimately delivered. As you can see, there are 35 to 40 modules. On the extreme right, you can see in the first 7 weeks, some MOOCs, some modules will be delivered starting from the beginning. Then week 8 will be revision week. Then week 9 to 14 will be the remaining modules. And week 15 will be again the revision and assessment week. And after that, a proctored examination if you want to obtain the grades. So that is a very beautiful slide which explains the entire structure of a MOOC. And please remember, one MOOC normally is of 40 hours duration, and out of which 20 hours video is there. This is a mandatory condition, almost, yes. For example, I have developed MOOCs. My MOOC is in chemistry, but I just want to show for every MOOC, there is a 3 to 4 minute introductory video, which tells you what is the content week-wise. Just have a look in 1 minute. Dear students, welcome to this MOOC on quantum chemistry for postgraduate students. This MOOC, which you are required to complete in 15 weeks, has been developed in a very systematic and logical manner. In the first week, you will learn about the fundamentals of quantum mechanics, how in the third and fourth weeks, we will solve Schrodinger equation mechanics. So like that, you know, it goes up to last 15 weeks. So, appropriate time. So that is how dear for students, each MOOC there is. I'm very sure that you will find this course very interesting and enjoyable. Please go through the entire e-content. Anyway, similarly, you know, in the MOOCs on commerce, economics, there are similar things. And we have added many animations which make the concepts very clear. I just give you one animation which shows how this concept is so beautifully explained. Just watch it.
It's scorching heat and a person is really thirsty. He is willing to pay a good amount to get thirst quenching 1 glass of water. This is because he is getting immense benefit from this 1 glass of water. From the second glass of water, the additional benefit he derives is a little less than the benefit from the first bottle. Hence, he is willing to pay a little less for the second one. The economist's term for this additional benefit is marginal benefit. And so he derives even a little less benefit from third class and would pay even lesser. This explains the law of diminishing marginal utility.
So just see, one small animation can make many concepts explain in a much better way. Anyway,
it's called
the basic philosophy of MOOCs is 4 A's. Anytime, anywhere, anyone, any number of times. So this is the beauty of a MOOC. Even you can watch MOOC on your mobile phone. You can decide your own pace of learning. And then these MOOCs are highly economical. You know, in India, the development of MOOCs has been, you know, that work has been divided amongst various national coordinators. For example, UGC is developing MOOCs for postgraduate subjects. CEC, Consortium for Education Communication, is developing for undergraduate subjects. NPTEL does it for engineering subjects. Like that, you can see the work has been divided. And all these MOOCs in India at present, almost 2,000 MOOCs have been developed. And they are all hosted on this platform, learning management system called SWAYAM. All of them are hosted there. You can go to this website and all the MOOCs will be available. You know, the vision is that once all the courses are complete, SWAYAM will be like ATL, anytime learning. Just as we have ATM, anytime money for the banks. You know, what can MOOCs do for India? That could be the next question for your mind. You know, our gross enrollment ratio in India is only 26.3%, although we have almost nearly 1,000 universities, nearly 40,000 colleges. Still, our gross enrollment ratio is 26.3. That means almost 3/4 of Indian youth in the age group of 18 to 23 are not able to pursue higher education. So MOOCs can help in increasing the gross enrollment ratio. Anybody, anywhere in the country or the world can enroll in the MOOC. And then MOOCs provide education with equity, not equality, as you can see here. What I mean by equity, anybody, rich, poor, everybody can learn from these MOOCs. And then MOOCs make learning learner-centric and interactive. In every MOOC, there are certain questions which you can attempt online. If the answer is correct, it will tell you why it is correct. And if it is wrong, it will tell you why it is wrong. So it helps in self-learning and self-assessment. And yes, the learning is just one click away. And then, you know, very high quality education is available to the masses. Just see, in India, at least in many universities, 30% of the positions are vacant. You don't get people to teach, competent people. So this is available to the masses. Then, you know, there are many lifelong learners who are very fond of learning. For them, it is a boon. I am a student of chemistry. I want to learn international economics. I can enroll. And then the biggest thing is, MOOCs have been developed by the best of the country. Top professors from various universities have developed the MOOCs. So it will be something like the best of the country addressing to the rest. And now, according to UGC, as you can see it here, up to 20% of the courses in one semester, you can do through MOOCs on SWAYAM. And now, as I have learned, this 20% is going to be increased to about 40% very soon. However, it's not so easy to develop MOOCs. Please remember that. I have and our team has developed so many MOOCs, but so many years it has taken us. You have to have high quality, authenticity, and interactivity. There is a coordination required between academic team which develops static content and technical team which does multimedia enrichment. And then these have to be finished in a time-bound manner. It should not take years to develop a MOOC. And then, keeping in view the Indian conditions, we need to translate them into various regional languages. That is, multilingual conversion is required. And you know, it is a reflection of how good a teacher you are when you are developing a MOOC. How you introduce a topic. Language should be simple, clarity of expression, ability to come down to the level of the weak students. So those are the qualities of a good teacher. And however, in India, there is some problem. For example, internet speed is a problem. We have very low internet speed, 7 to 8 Mbps, while leading countries have more than 25 Mbps. So we need to work on that because access could be a small problem. And then there is a digital divide also. But please remember, there are 4.4 billion internet users in the world. Out of that, about 600 million are in India. And out of these 600 million, 40% are in rural areas. No doubt, digital divide exists. But as people come to know the utility of these, the digital divide will be bridged. Already it is being said by one report that by 2028, almost everybody will be using internet. You know, there are some other MOOC platforms also in the world. We have SWAYAM, otherwise edX, Coursera, Udacity. These are the leading MOOC platforms in the world. And do you know which is the most popular MOOC in the world? Look at this. The most popular MOOC in the world is how to learn, learning how to learn. People still feel they don't know how to learn, and there is an enrollment of about 12 lakhs in this. There is another MOOC on think again, how to reason and argue. Very popular MOOC in the world. Then there is one MOOC which is introduction to public speaking. So much enrollment. People still feel they need to excel in public speaking if they have to, do the progress in their career, and which is true, and which is very much true in teaching profession. So this is what I told you, how ICT has impacted teaching and learning. ICT is also impacting revision of syllabi. You will all agree that the knowledge in all disciplines is growing very, very fast. So fast that the doubling time of the growth of knowledge has shrunk considerably. Look at this. There was a time when the doubling time of the knowledge was 150 years, then it became 55, and now the doubling time of the growth of human knowledge is 73 days. So fast the knowledge is growing. And please look at this. What we all know is a drop, and what we do not know is an ocean. Please keep that thing in mind. And Professor C.N.R. Rao, Bharat Ratna, he said a few years back, 90% of Indian universities have outdated curriculum. Yes, their syllabi are not revised and they are not up to date. And now a month back, NCERT came out with the news that after 15 years, syllabi will be revised, and now they say syllabi would be light. Because heavy syllabi in schools are a very big problem. They don't let the students learn. They are always busy in rote learning. So ICT can help in frequent revision of the syllabi, which is very much required now through email, discussion forum, video conferencing, etc. Exchange of ideas with the experts can take place very easily. That is what I mean to say here. And people say that 20 to 30% of the syllabi should be changed almost every 3 years, minimum. The way the knowledge is growing. Otherwise, what will happen? There will be a big gap between what our students learn and what they should be learning. Third is ICT is also coming in research. As I said, because of the growth of knowledge, literature is becoming very vast, and therefore research is becoming very, very challenging. All libraries cannot have all the journals, therefore electronic databases are now coming. They are becoming the real information source in the 21st century. An electronic database is like a telephone directory. Just how to find out the number. Similarly, there is a search engine. You can find very easily the literature you want. ICT is being used in assessment. You will all agree, and perhaps we do not give so much importance as assessment, that assessment is a very important component of the education process. Assessment drives learning. The way you start assessing your students will start learning in that way. And method of assessment should be very scientific. It has to be scientific so that you can, test the various skills of the students. It's a big challenge. And now technology is coming here also. ICT is coming, online examination or e-examination is coming here also. I remember when I was director on Delhi University in Institute of Lifelong Learning, we conducted the first online examination in the history of Delhi University about a decade back. Immediate results, saves times, uniform marking, cost effective, self-assessment, etc. But what was the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge was to set good questions. those questions which could differentiate between students with different levels of competence. If papers are very easy, it will send a wrong signal to a very bright student. The signal will be, you don't need to work hard, you will get the marks. That is wrong. So please try to understand that. And now government has also set up National Testing Agency, you know that, since 2017, which is carrying out most of the important examinations nationwide. IIT, Joint Entrance, UGC, NET, NEET, GPAT, all these exams are now conducted through National Testing Agency. Again, it is a manifestation of technology in assessment. And one more thing, ICT in professional development of higher education faculty. I was also at one stage director of academic staff colleges, Delhi University Center for Professional Development in Higher Education. We used to conduct refresher and orientation courses. Maybe in one subject, 30, 40 teachers will come, or maximum you will do 2 batches. But now the time has come, there are 1.4 million teachers in higher education. And all of them can be trained in one lot through ICT. That's the beauty. There is a scheme called ARPIT, which was launched in 2018. This is called Annual Refresher Program in Teaching. What the government has done, government has set up various national resource centers in the country. And each national resource center has been given one discipline to develop online refresher course. For example, we have National Resource Center of Chemistry. I'm the chairman of that. We are developing ARPIT chemistry program. Somebody will be determining, developing ARPIT commerce, ARPIT economics, ARPIT management. So all this is being happening. So this is our Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, is the National Resource Center of Chemistry. This was inaugurated by Smriti Irani ji. Just I can show you for a minute.
आज मैं विशेष रूप से बधाई देती हूँ प्रोफेसर बख्शी को, विमल जी को, जिन्होंने बहुत मेहनत करके इस सेंटर को जीवित रूप में आपके सामने प्रस्तुत किया। ये टीचर की ललक, उसके उत्साह का उदाहरण है कि भारत सरकार ने दिसंबर 2014 को माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के हाथों
Anyway, I won't have much time, but the focus of these ARPIT programs is latest developments in the subject. Then the other focus is new and emerging areas, and then also pedagogical innovations and methodologies for transacting curricula more effectively. That is how it, and last ARPIT 2019, which we did, there were 6,000 teachers, almost like that, who were enrolled in that. And if many were not enrolled, the reason is people are not aware of this. There must be 70 to 80,000 chemistry teachers. So next program, all of them can learn through this. I can just show you 2-3 minute an introductory video, which in this Professor Ved Prakash contributed. Professor C.N. Rao was invited to deliver lecture. Top people of the country were invited. Just have a look at 2-3 minutes video that how the face of faculty development is changing.
Hello everyone, myself Dr. Vimal Raj, and I am the coordinator of National Resource Center of Chemistry of MHRD, Government of India at SCTB Khalsa College, University of Delhi.
And myself, Professor A.K. Bakshi. We welcome you all to the ARPIT 2019, which is going to provide you a unique opportunity to learn as per your convenience. For this online refresher course, have selected a variety of interesting and exciting topics.
So that these are useful for all the UG and PG chemistry teachers of our country, irrespective of their specialization.
Let's have a look at the variety of the modules which have been developed with the help of leading experts from all schools, entitled Chem Talks. Will focus on the latest development as well as new and emerging.
Through the modules titled Chem Pedagogy, we will highlight on improving curriculum development and question paper setting.
You will all agree that there are many difficult topics in chemistry. In the modules, so like that, it is a video. Another impact of ICT is on new pedagogical innovations. And as you know, the theme of this international workshop is innovative methods for virtual teaching. So this comes under this. You know, normally we teach in our classes through talk and chalk method. You know, this has many advantages, but it has some limitations, like it is a teacher-centric approach, mainly a monologue method. Many complex concepts cannot be explained on the board. It presumes that all students learn in an identical fashion. Sufficient number of problems cannot be solved in the class, and then it is slow and time consuming. So this is what we do. But now with ICT, new pedagogies have come. One is blended learning. You know, in blended learning, student learns from the class, from the teacher, which is the traditional model, and then also learns from a MOOC or some other course, online course. So it is the blend. But another learning which is becoming very, very popular in the world and which is said to be the learning of the future, that is flipped learning. You know, flipped learning is like this, you know, that in the traditional model, teacher delivers a lecture in the class and then gives some homework activities to the student. That is the traditional model. But in the flipped model, teacher will give some video to the student to be watched at home. Student will watch that video 2 times, 3 times, note down what he or she has understood, what are the queries, and then in the class next day, they will discuss that video and go ahead. So it is the inverted model. So you may ask the question how it is advantageous. You know, advantages, it can be learned. You have to understand that learning process is a 6-level hierarchy. We start from remembering to understanding, application, analysis, evaluation, and creativity. This is 6 levels through which any learning process should normally go. It should end at creativity. Now, what happens in the traditional model, you can see here, remembering and understanding is done in the class by the teacher. And for other 4, it is left to the student to do outside the class. How much he does or how much he does not, that is a different thing. But in the flipped model, remembering and understanding is done through a video given by the teacher outside the class, he or she does. And then in the class, the remaining 4 activities are done in the class. So, you know, here applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating, all these things are discussed in the class with the other students and with the teacher, and, you know, through discussion, it helps them. That is basically the flipped model. And, you know, this was my article in the Times of India on 29th June. This is regarding flipped classroom to fulfill the learning needs of 21st century. And this is a bigger complete article in Education Times on 1st July. You can watch it on the, you know, website, Flipped Classroom for 21st Century Learning Needs, as to how this is going to change the innovative, you know, approach to learning. The beauty is it is an innovative approach to learning. So I think I recommend that this should be done. And while doing this online teaching, online learning, there is often a confusion, which I want to make it clear today. Please remember, teaching may be mainly an art, but learning is a science. You have to understand how does learning take place. This is very important. Online delivery or online teaching is teacher-centric, whereas online learning is learner-centric. So please remember how the learning takes place. Learning takes place very gradually. As somebody learns something, it induces some changes in learners' actions and behavior. And once the learning takes place in incremental steps more and more, it induces more and more changes in the mental model, etc., through deep understanding and conceptual clarity. And what happens, once a lot of learning is complete, then that learner starts applying the acquired knowledge in practical situations in life, profession, or workplace. That is the science of learning. So we must understand that. While sitting on the other side as a teacher, sometimes we don't understand. And please remember, it is recommended that teachers need to be massively trained and retrained and oriented for online teaching learning mode. Not very easy. Please remember, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we are going to rob them of tomorrow. Yes. We are approaching a time in which we will be requiring technology in every classroom and in every student and teacher's hand, because it is going to be the pen and paper of our time. And it is the lens through which we can experience much of our world. So please remember, that is the role which technology is going to play. Recently, government announced that 230 universities can offer online degree courses. A welcome step. But then the question is, who will prepare these courses? It's not that easy. We have taken so many years with so much expertise. And if you do it hurriedly, it will be at the cost of quality. So please, one has to be very, very careful. But one thing is clear, that ICT, if it is used creatively, can make a big difference in the way the teachers teach and the students learn. That is now going to change for sure. And therefore, integration of ICT with higher education is essential for creating a holistic learning environment focusing on quality, innovation, expansion, excellence, and inclusion. And now the time has also come when India needs a virtual university. India should have a virtual university. And the SWAYAM platform with almost 2,000 courses hosted on it can be the starting point for setting up a virtual university in the country. And another thing with ICT which is going to happen is that the roles of the are going to change significantly in the 21st century. Yes, total change in the roles. Traditionally, the roles have been threefold: to disseminate knowledge, to create knowledge, and academic administration and management. That is what normally a teacher does. And what makes a good teacher, in my opinion? A good teacher should have a very good command over the subject. If he doesn't know the subject very well, ins and outs, then you can't be. And your teaching should reflect the amount of thinking you have done on the subject. Before going to the class, at least I used to think of all the questions which can arise in a student's mind relating to what you are going to teach. And try to, answer them and present there in the class. Student will think, oh, all my questions have been answered. He's or she is a great teacher. Then you should have the ability to come down to the level of the weakest student and take them along. Please remember, a teacher is not only for bright students. How systematically and logically you speak, that shows how systematically and logically you think. So your presentation skills should be there. Many teachers have this problem. They are full of knowledge, but then they cannot present their ideas in a very systematic and logical manner. And you also need to have good communication skills. And a teacher should also improve on the basis of the feedback of the students. At least myself, for almost more than 30 years, I have always taken the feedback of my students, although it was unofficial. I would just ask them what they liked the most, what they did not like, and what are your suggestions. And you will be surprised. It's not on the basis of one lecture. When you teach for 30, 40 lectures, then they can make a good assessment of yours. And please remember, a student may make any mistake, but a student will not make a mistake in identifying a good teacher. Yes. The influence of a good teacher can never be erased. And the best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. But in the 21st century, roles are now going to change. Objectives of the education are the same, but now you will have to become tech-savvy teachers in ICT skills. Students may be enrolled in MOOCs all over the country. They may have some queries. Who will answer them? So you must learn how to manage virtual classroom, how to manage virtual discussion forum. And you should also be proficient in the development of e-content and MOOCs. And UGC has already decided that if you are proficient and if you have done some work in this, you will get API. And these are some of the basic technological skills which are recommended for all teachers. There are about 20 skills. Web designing, email, even email we do little bit, but not all things we know about that. Even PowerPoint presentation, many aspects we may not be knowing. So video conferencing also, now we have learned because of pandemic. Then, many people have their own web page, how to make that, deep web knowledge, all these things, you need to learn. And please remember, the goals of education are the same, but unfortunately, we still focus on examination, rote learning, and scoring high marks. That is the drawback on our education system. Technology will not change that. You will have to change that. Technology, as I said in the beginning, is only an enabler. It doesn't have the brain of its own. Our education system does not challenge the minds of the students. It does not encourage thinking, innovation, and creativity amongst our students. And that is the most serious drawback in our education system. This is the reality today. Look at this. Everybody wants 90+ marks in every discipline. Nobody wants to learn the concepts. The trend is like that. Why all this is happening? What is the fundamental flaw? Look at this and watch this 3-minute video, which will be an eye-opener for all of us.
For decades, people have been finding hundreds of flaws in the education system. No conceptual understanding, no creativity, children are stressed, and the list goes on. All these are symptoms. But what is the root cause to all this? What is the fundamental flaw in the education system? Let us play a rapid-fire game. You have 1 second to answer every question. Let's start. First question, A4? Okay, no more questions. Did you think Apple first? 98% of people are most likely to think so. Because that was what we were told in our kindergarten. Imagine that this was done differently. Say we had asked you for all the words starting with A. Ant, ace, April, apt. Different answers would have popped out of everyone's head. Do you see where the problem is? Before children start going to school, every child is unique. every child thinks different. But the education system makes every child think the same. This is the fundamental flaw in the education system. Why did this start? During the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, the education system was designed to make children ready to work in factories. The factories did not require people to think, but to only work like robots. So, the education system stripped children of their freedom to think and destroyed their true potential. The same education system continues even today. Only the industries have changed. A study by NASA shows that 98% of children think different before they start going to school. As they go through this education system, at 25 years of age, only 2% think different. 98% think the same. So how does the education system make every child the same? Let's go back to the apple example. Kindergarten lessons told us that A is for apple. We asked you for words that start with A. Our education system gave us the answers. We asked you a question. Answers make you the same. Questions make you different. Right from kindergarten, the education system keeps giving answers. Instead of asking children how plants make food, the science teacher gives you the definition of photosynthesis. Instead of asking them to describe the sun, the teacher tells them that the sun is a ball of fire at the center of the solar system. Through their years in school, children lose the capability to think on their own. Whether it is their choice of career or their relationship or any situation in life, they become.
So I think you can very well understand why we are in a state where we are. And we cannot change until and unless teaching, learning changes. Everything is based on that. Look at this, it's because of creativity. No Indian scientist has been able to get Nobel Prize after 1930. It has been 90 years. Nobody has got. C.V. Raman got Nobel Prize in 1930, and after that, nobody has got. These were the people who got, but then they were not working in India. Even in economics, you had Amartya Sen getting Nobel Prize in 1998. He's an Indian, although for 3 decades he had been working abroad. And even Abhijit Banerjee, he's also an American citizen who got Nobel Prize in 2019. So what I mean to say is, while working in India, people have not been able to make a mark to the top. We need to think why this is happening. Please remember, all these top honors are not lifetime achievement awards. You know, if you really want to excel in research, which you should, because you're all teachers, teaching is one component. Most of us are very, casual about our research. If you want to excel in research, you should have these 3 qualities besides many others: persistence and resilience. Yes, we people sometimes want immediate gains. That may not be possible. Last year's Nobel Prize in chemistry went to a scientist who was 97-year-old. Then you need enormous amount of creativity and open-mindedness. This is the serious, this is missing. As you saw from that video, we are always giving ready-made answers to the students, and our examination is also like that. So the result is, without creativity, we are moving in the same circle again and again. Nothing new is coming out. And then, we don't collaborate. We prefer to work in isolation. This is also a serious drawback. We need to build more bridges and not walls if we want to excel. There is no doubt that creativity is the most important human resource. Without creativity, there will be no progress. As it was being said, we want innovation and creativity. Creativity is the foundation of innovation, because creativity means you come out with a new idea, and innovation means use that idea to get something. So we will be operating the same pattern. Creativity in our country should be given as much importance as we give it to literacy. They should be at par. But it's not going to happen, not very soon. So something fundamentally wrong with our teaching. Teaching must shift its focus from remembering and understanding to other, skills or abilities. And now I'm coming to the second part. What after this? India is very soon going to enter an era of education 4.0, which is total technology mediated education. In order to understand education 4.0, please remember that we are now in Industrial Revolution 4. Industrial Revolution 1 was when water and steam were used for production. Then Industrial Revolution 2, we used electricity. In 3, information technology and internet played a dominant role. And in Industrial Revolution 4, it is artificial intelligence and other digital technologies which are going to play a dominant role. And education 4.0 means that we will have to align our education system with the needs of Industrial Revolution. We have to introduce such courses, we have to prepare such graduates who could be absorbed as per the needs of Industrial Revolution 4. So that is a big challenge. Earlier it was traditional, then came ICT, and now after ICT, this is coming. This is my article in Education Times, which came on 27th May, as to how Education 4.0 is going to work for the coming generations. You should read it if possible. These are going to be the future technologies: artificial intelligence, robotics, virtual reality, Internet of Things. And now, one more step is going to happen. Personalized learning is coming, one-to-one learning. And here artificial intelligence is going to play a very important role. Can you imagine that there will be a separate learning path for each individual depending upon his or her capability, background, competence, etc. And this will be possible through artificial intelligence. By the way, what is artificial intelligence? It's a branch of computer science, which, is basically concerned with the concept of machines which think like humans and perform functions such as learning, problem solving, reasoning, identifying patterns, etc. That's artificial intelligence. This is the scheme of the MHRD. I've been a part of this. How artificial intelligence is going to be used to make learning more personalized and customized as per the requirements of the learners. This is NEET scheme, National Educational Alliance for Technology. See, things are totally changing. Artificial intelligence is now being even considered for, finding out whether a person is infected with coronavirus or not. They think that the corona affects the respiratory system, and if it infects, then it changes the sound of the breathing and the sound of your cough, and artificial can notice the change in the pattern of the sound and find it. Just imagine. Artificial intelligence is also coming for examinations. Professor Parvinder would bear testimony to this, that these are the new things: adaptive assessments. Machine set questions are coming. Algorithms will replace mentors. Exams will be at your doorsteps. Digital invigilation, digital attendance, all this, which nobody would have thought. All this is going to happen in near future. And this is a recent report. Exams move to bedroom, but invigilator is still watching. See, artificial intelligence proctor will keep a watch on your movement, because there may be a tendency to cheat while you are working from home or giving exam. But here you will come to know whether you talk or somebody comes in your frame. And then with artificial intelligence, through image recognition, they can find out whether the right person is appearing or not. So, all this looks like a miracle. So it's not wrong if I say any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And this is going to happen. And we will have to prepare ourselves. And there could be one more question in your mind: will technology replace teachers? This is the common question. Please remember, technology will not replace teachers, but teachers who use technology, they will probably replace those who do not use. The future is going to be of the teachers who are tech savvy. Yes. So the choice is yours. And technology, if it comes in the hands of great teachers who are very great, and they are also tech savvy, then it can be transformational. It can do wonders. And now coming to the last part, just a few one. You know, I want to share some of my personal experience. As you said in the initial stages, that most of the participants are young faculty members, so I want to give them some tips. What minimum a higher education faculty member needs for success in the 21st century, according to me. I have worked at top places in India and abroad in many leading institutions. Even in school education, I have been involved as author of NCERT books. So maybe I have one advantage, that I have seen education from very low level to the topmost level. So I would like to share some of my experiences. You know, these are the things you need. Even if you don't have, you can still work hard. Sound knowledge and clarity of concepts in your subject. If you're in commerce, management, economics, this is the most important. Without this, no chance. Then you should also have, as a teacher, knowledge of pedagogy, art of teaching, how to introduce a subject. Please remember, no subject is difficult. If you cannot explain it simply, then you perhaps do not know it. And then for research, you should be creative and out-of-box thinker. And this habit cannot be nurtured in one day. You should try doing it. 4 C's, as I have written here. It is curiosity, creativity, commitment, and courage. These are required for excellence in research. You know, Einstein once said, I do not have any special talent. I am only passionately curious. That's all. Then you should have excellent communication and presentation skills. It can do wonders. Tech savvy, I have said, writing skills are missing in our teachers. They talk in the class, they speak, they have been teaching for years. But whatsoever they have been teaching, if they are asked to put it in writing, it becomes difficult. And last but not the least, proactive personality is required. Without appropriate personality, even if you have all other things, you will not be successful in life. I'm telling you today. This is, remember this picture. Personality will really charge you for success. And personality means proactive. Proactive personality is, you know, proactive person prevents problems before they arise. Reactive people do the repairing job after the problem. So choice is yours. So these are the tips which I am now going to give quickly. Just keep them in mind. If you are proactive, you focus on preparing. If you are reactive, you focus on repairing. Decide. Proactive people don't wait for the ship to come to them. They swim out to it. Okay? The first quality which you should have is self-belief. You know, without this, you cannot make any progress. A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because her trust is not in the branch, but in her own wings. Yes. So believe in yourself, only then start anything. If you are defeated, you think you can't, there is no point. So this is the starting point. And whatsoever you can do, you think you can do, then try to be the best in that. Because a penguin can never be a giraffe, but try to be the best penguin you can be. Yes. If you're an excellent teacher, try to be at the top. Tell me any line where top people are not respected. Any line you may tell. Only thing is, mediocrity won't survive. Self-discipline is another. Self-discipline means mastery over your own thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you cannot control what you do. So starting point is self-discipline, because your thoughts will become words, words will become actions, actions, habits, habits, character, and then destiny. But everything starts from thoughts. So start practicing it and control your thoughts. If you can learn self-control, you can master anything. Start it from today. Just see. I also never used to be, but then I also learned in the process, but we learned perhaps sometimes late. Because, you know, nobody taught us these things. Therefore, I am sharing this with you. Ultimately, in life, you will have to choose one of the two pains, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Again, the choice is yours. Then work hard sensibly. People are hard working, but then they don't work hard sensibly. If you want to become extraordinary, work hard. Don't be like one in the crowd. You know, I never felt in my life that I should be just like one of any other. No, I should be different. So that becomes your driving force. That becomes self-motivation for you. And you work with a strong willpower and bulldog determination. And I tell you, world will be at your feet. A diamond is, after all, merely a lump of coal that did well under pressure. You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets. Look at this. You have to make efforts. You may have many resources, but if you do not know how to use them, it will never be enough. Look at this, how he is using the stairs. Another quality you should have is the growth mindset. There is nothing in this world that can trouble you more than your own thoughts. Please note it. The heaviest burden that we carry are the thoughts in our head. Always, you know, mind always keeps on thinking something. Look at this. This is half a minute video, but it conveys a lot. Please watch it.
How heavy is this glass of water? Melissa, would you care to answer?
8 ounces,
12 ounces?
16 ounces.
The absolute weight of the glass doesn't matter. It depends on how long I hold on to it. If I hold it for a minute, nothing happens. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will begin to ache. If I hold it all day long, my arm will feel numb and paralyzed. Well, the weight of the glass hasn't changed, but the longer I hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. The stresses and the worries of life are like this glass of water. If you think about them for a little while, there's no problem. Think about it for a little bit longer, it begins to hurt. You think about them all day long, and you'll feel paralyzed, incapable of doing anything. Always remember, put the glass down.
So you don't have the problem, you are the problem. So that's very clear. Life will ultimately be as good as your mindset. Another is come out of comfort zone. Please remember, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Yes, not before that. It's only after you have stepped out of your comfort zone that you begin to change, grow, and transform. Many of us do not grow because they remain in a comfort zone. I am getting good salary. My husband or my wife is getting good salary. Children are said, why should I do? So this type of mindset won't let you do anything. Stay positive. Always positive thinking. See, he is getting 11 out of 10. That's the height of positivity. Positive thinkers will always have a solution for every problem, and negative thinkers will have a problem for every solution. So stay positive. One thing I would advise is do introspect yourself regularly from time to time. Nobody knows you better than you yourself. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So once a month, you should sit down alone and think Where are you heading? What have you achieved? What are the problems? Yes. And then, you should always be confident and honest to yourself. Don't tell to the world, or don't bother. World will not let you live. Sticks and stones are thrown at fruit-bearing trees. Don't worry at all. Then learn from your failures. Please, one biggest thing which I am recommending you is overcome the fear of failure. जब तक तुम डरते रहोगे, तुम्हारी जिंदगी के फैसले कोई और लेता रहे. Yes, this is a major stumbling block in our growth. This is a new concept coming. Embrace your failures. Many people keep a failure resume on their website where they write where they failed, why they could not achieve get any award or could not get any position. What could be the possible reasons? And they read it and it emboldens them to do better. Failures can be the pillars of success. Depends upon how you take your failure. As a stepping stone or as a burden, as it is done here. No to worries. Please remember, worry is a misuse of imagination. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. So please, look at this. Why worry? If you have done the very best you can, worrying won't make it any better. Very good logic.
Doctor, within 1 or 2 minutes, our next team is waiting in Canada to...
I take 5 minutes. I will try. I will just try.
Okay.
One day you will look back and realize that you worried too much about things so learn to say no also. Please learn the art of saying no. Don't lie. Don't make excuses. Don't over-explain to yourself, but simply say no. Many people are not able to say no. You can be a good person with a kind heart and still say no. शब्दों की ताकत को कभी मत आंकिए साहब, क्योंकि एक छोटा सा हाँ और एक छोटा सा ना पूरी जिंदगी बदल सकता है. No to anger. Anger you should also control. I am taking it quickly. Anger is a normal reaction, but what you do with the anger can make a world of difference. Never reply when you are angry. Never make a promise when you are happy. And never make a decision when you are sad. And this is no to arrogance. Let the success never go to your head, please. There is a difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence comes from self-belief. Arrogance comes from ego. So avoid arrogance. Look at this. महादेव कहते हैं कभी किसी चीज का घमंड आ जाए तो शमशान का एक चक्कर लगा आना, तुमसे बेहतरीन लोग वहां राख बने पड़े. Yes. Remember that you are dust and to dust you shall return. Dream big. Dream is not what you see in sleep, but dream is something that does not let you sleep. Dream is the creative vision for your life in the future. The eyes are useless when the mind is blank, because vision is what you see with mind. Sight is what you see with your eyes. And last part is manage your time very well. Everybody gets ultimately 24 hours a day. Therein lies the secret to your success. Please remember, today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. This is a very famous Amitabh's quote. कल खो दिया आज के लिए, आज खो दिया कल के लिए, कभी जी ना सके हम आज के लिए, बीत रही है जिंदगी कल आज और कल के लिए. No, this is just half minute and then I'll stop. So see how time changes everybody. So my request is live in the moment. So at the end of the day, please remember, ladies and gentlemen, your biggest competition is you only. Yes. स्वर्ग भी तू है, नर्क भी तू है, इन दोनों का फर्क भी. One day you will wake up and there won't be any more time to do the things you have always wanted. That will come to everybody. Do it now. जिंदगी छोटी नहीं होती है, लोग जीना ही देरी से शुरू करते हैं. जब तक रास्ते समझ में आते हैं, तब तक लौटने का वक्त हो जाता है.
सुनो गजर क्या गाए, समय गुजरता जाए, और जीने वाले भोर.
Anyway, this is our report about MOOCs in Times of India. Again, in Times of India, this is about National Resource Center. This is my article about SWAYAM in Education Times. This is editorial on e-learning in Times of India. This is again in Times of India, a report about our work. This is in Hindustan Times. This is about the Indian education system, why it should change in Education Times. This is a recent article about ICT creatively. This is chemistry education. This is ICT for quality education in the May issue of Science Report. And at the end, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. I think we should take a pause.
Feedback of you. I am giving my telephone
Very
number.
positive, sir. When I was reading the chat box, the people are writing so much about your lecture. And I think there are so many things in your whole 1 hour and 20 minutes session that that needs a pause to ponder upon so many things, because we need so many things to do in our life, because after all, life has to go. The person when takes a birth, ultimately he has to leave this earth, but we must do something for this earth so that for generations we can remember. So the big difference is needed. We have to do so many things, and the people like you are working so hard that I think with our collaboration, we all people now has become your followers, sir, after observing all these things from your lecture. So I think this is going to be very, very innovative and very fruitful for all our participants. We'll continue to be in touch with you, because you people are our resources of this country and doing wonders to transform the education system. And I'm very thankful to again Dr. Parvinder, because he introduced to you, and it was just a moment that we entered in his office at Chandigarh, and we tell him that we are going to organize, and he immediately blush up his mind and tell that you should invite Dr. A.K. Bakshi. And I think it was a wonderful session from your side, and we were amazed after listening you. Now just 2 minutes, I request Dr. Parvinder ji, because he's a guest of honor of today's session. So I request him to conclude the session so that we can move to the Canada along with our participants, because a team of resource persons is waiting there. Dr. Parvinder.
Thank you very much for the excellent and superb talk as usual. I have no words to say. Word thank to Professor Bakshi. He is an ocean of knowledge, and he has given some drops from his wisdom ocean to all of us. So thank you very much to Dr. Ashmi Palla, President PCMA. I said day before yesterday also, as we are using sanitizer, he's sensitizer also. So he earned the credit of making all of us sensitized to work in this crucial period of lockdown. And really, sir, Professor, you have touched every aspect of the virtual classroom, whether it is a MOOC or it is ARPIT or it is SWAYAM or it is anytime learning, 4 A's, 4 C's, flipped classroom, the qualities which are required for a good teacher, reality flaw education system. So comparing with the 18th century coming to the 21st century, creativity, collaborative, I mean, everything has been curved, and is challenge to the controller also that the artificial intelligence one-to-one and then examination proactive, so everything. So I have really, it's amazing. We all know that this world is facing a biggest health risk at the moment, which is leading to one of the largest and quickest reorganization of the world. Epidemic, which is a pandemic, is spread over 200 countries. And we know that 1.4 billion students, they are being affected for their higher education, chalked up to the technology, the speed of the spread of the epidemic, closure of education institution, transition to the online mode of teaching. It's so swift, sir. It is so swift. And I think when you are the mentoring, then I think hardly we will find another occasion to plan and to reflect the potential risk. Important to look at the impact and reflect. And that's really moving forward in the field of the higher education, sir. Of course, there are some negative and adverse impacts of the COVID-19, which I mean that's the sluggish cross-border movement of the students. We have restricted the mobility of the student, particularly in this COVID-19 situation. Not to talk about the universities of UK, US, and Australia, New Zealand, but we are to depend upon the inbuilt system of our own country. China, they are the exporter of the student to the USA, Australia, and other. But I think many parents are avoiding. They are avoiding to send their wards due to the high risk of pandemic. Sir, I think another concept which has come, that is the passive learning. Online learning without planning in India, where backbone for online learning is not ready, I think. So curriculum is not defined and designed in such a format. We need to think of the this part, which is serious concern for our young teachers also. So due to this global crisis, the passive learner approach is moving towards the students, and we need to have the little bit careful. As one of the point which you mentioned, that is the digital division. So we should be worried. Of course, we have to adopt. There is no survival without the adaptability. So transition from face-to-face to online methodology, here the not only adaptability, but acceptability is also required. Student retention, promotion, evaluation is the crisis at the moment, sir. Outreach process to the re-devise curriculum is also required. So you have already highlighted the digital, e-content, ICT. So leaving that now because of the time constraint, I think higher education transformation are the opportunities all over the world, turning towards planned reform sector. So I think that's required. So blended learning is almost adopted now. This word is not unfamiliar to me. Teacher should be technical savvy, as you said. So they will be the real torchbearer from now. Not only that, they are to be on the mode of delivery and assessment. Outcome will have to be adopted, which is of immense importance. So learning management, you have very, very nicely explained. Improvement and redesigning, cluster model, collaborative work, as you said. So if we are close, we cannot work. So if we have to open up, we have to do the collaborative work with the colleagues, with the institutions. And this collaborative and the clustering model should not happen across the nation, but out of the international borders also. So I think another term which is coming up nowadays, sir, that is the massive teleconferencing. Rightly said that the video conferencing and all these things, they have become routine, as Dr. Palla has connected all of us. And in your conference, which had on 25th of June, more than 800 participants were present. So that means that we are aware of the online meetings and the Skype and everything. So let's not say that we need the examination reforms. Now we should be on the launching pad of transformation of the education system. Education need to be changed. There is no gap in the education and examination. It is separable model now. So I think with all these, my personal words and personal observation in the field of higher education, let's all be ready. Let's all keep on moving in the direction so that the technology, which is indispensable, need of our whatever the infrastructure and the human resources need to be trained. So you are the best person. So again, I congratulate Dr. Palla, Vikas Deep ji, Dr. Prem Kumar, and other dignitaries and our revered participants who will be making the best use of 7 days this faculty development program. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now quickly I move to Dr. B.B. Singla ji for vote of thanks to our resource person, Dr. A.K. Bakshi ji and others. Dr. Singla.
Thank you, Dr. Bhalla. I think we are fortunate enough that we are having with us Dr. A.K. Bakshi ji, Vice Chancellor, PDM University, Haryana. I was going through the chat box that all the participants have enjoyed the session, learned a lot. It was a wonderful session. He has very well explained the role of ICT in the present teaching. Engagement of the participants in the classrooms was the main thrust during the online teaching. Gross enrollment ratio is a new concept through the MOOCs, which should be taken care of by all the institutes. And Dr. Bakshi, I am very much thankful to you for sharing with us the live examples. You have shared with us so many live examples, and our participants must be motivated enough to follow these MOOC courses and online teaching methodologies. I am very much thankful to you, sir, for sparing your valuable time and to be with us in this 7 days international FDP on online teaching. I am also thankful to Dr. Pravinder Singh ji, Controller Examination, Punjab University, Chandigarh, who is always with us to bless us. Thank you, Dr. Sir, for sharing your views on the online teaching and helping us to disseminate this knowledge on the online teaching to the participants. Definitely, like we have discussed, that reality will be now the virtual reality. The reality world will change to the virtual reality. Definitely, it is going to be changed. And to succeed, we must first believe that we can. And after this workshop, I ensure my participants that definitely we will be in a position to believe on ourselves that we can involve ourselves in online teaching. Thank you very much for all the participants, all other dignitaries, guests who have joined this particular faculty development programs on the online teaching. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhalla. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. A.K. Bakshi. Now I request all participants by using the link, move on to the Toronto now, because our resource person, Dr. Praveen Gill, is waiting there. The link has been provided in the chat box also. They have been mailed also. So please log in from your laptop, not by phone, so that we can move to the. Thank you, Dr. Bakshi. Thank you, sir. Okay, Vikasdeep, you can end the session and we will.
Yes, we are ending the session. All the participants are requested, in case if they face any problem, please make a post in the WhatsApp group which we have created for this purpose.
Vikas ji, Opera support nahi karta. Participants are requested, don't open that link in Opera.
Okay.
Please use Google Chrome or another browser for that.
Okay.
Okay. Right, sir.
Okay, Vikasdeep, you can end the
Right, sir. We are ending the session, sir. And moving on to Canada, sir.